What if I told you there are a lot of games out there that are actually worth finishing? Because, let's be honest, there are thousands of games that start strong but fall flat as the story goes on. In this video, I'll share a list of good games that only get better the more you play. And we got 10 here, so let's get started off with number 10, Metroid Prime Remastered. Now, for some reason, the Switch remaster of Metroid Prime has caught on in a way that the original and even the Wii release never did. There are so many people who are discovering this game for the first time. Finally, and participating in all the beloved Metroid Prime stuff, the music, the atmosphere, the graphics, even here, the Nintendo Switch graphics. And also just the fun and challenge of playing hide and seek with a bunch of items needed to progress to the next areas, and that's where we come in. If you're a casual gamer, or hell, even if you're a hardcore gamer who hasn't familiarized yourself with Metroidvanias, Metroid Prime, and 3D exploration, it can be a challenge, totally. The backtracking, the searching takes a little bit of getting used to, and that means there has been plenty of buzz recently about people reaching a bit of a frustration point and just kind of bouncing off the game. But if that sounds like you, I just gotta say, stick with it. The finale is absolutely spectacular. You do not want to miss that climactic boss battle against Metroid Prime itself. Not only is it one of the most epic boss battles that Nintendo has ever cooked up, it's like one of the biggest one in terms of scope, but it's also a brilliant callback to past bosses in the Metroid Prime series. This thing is just like pure adrenaline end to end. This game is totally worth finishing. Down at number 9, of course, we have to talk about Luigi's Mansion 3. Now, this series of spin-offs was Nintendo's attempt to put Luigi in a bit of a heroic role. Yes, as Mario's brother, he's kind of forced to be in his big brother's shadow for the rest of time, and the character even acknowledges that in later games. Like when the original Luigi's Mansion hit the GameCube in 2001, it was celebrated as a small but extremely cool and inventive little Ghostbusters-inspired action game. More than anything, though, it was way ahead of its time. The game mechanics to this day still hold up pretty well, especially in Luigi's Mansion 3, which is a recent one from 2019, but it is easy to see why so many people got sidetracked or quit the game entirely at the final boss. Sure, it's a simple game about sucking up ghosts with a vacuum, but the final boss, King Boo, is not as easy as it sounds. Some people, like my girlfriend, just want to have a semi-casual ghost hunting experience with Luigi's Mansion, and I think the final boss did scare a few people off. Like, it's multi-stage, it takes a ton of damage to kill it, got multiple smaller bosses, it's got everything you need to ruin a boss fight, essentially. But if you stick with it and carry that sole Nintendo gamer tenaciousness, you'll fight through and to the end, to the final facade of the mansion falling away, and the big reveal that Luigi's hideaway has been turned into a hotel. I mean, sure, it's a haphazardly constructed one, but essentially just like the old place, it's like the old go-kart track that's built on top of the haunted house. Like, to me, it's worth it because finishing the game story is very satisfying, especially, again, seeing them rebuild. It's worth getting through that final gauntlet for some closure. Moving on to number 8, we have Firewatch from 2016. This is a short and relatively simple game. You take on the role of Henry, a firefighter perched on his watchtower in a state of perpetual calm and peaceful solitude. Appreciate the nature, the beautiful, crisp nature, like before something weird happens. Like with most visual novels and adventure games, you gotta commit to Firewatch's slow burn of a story before things start heating up. A mystery of mysterious proportions is heating up in the national park where you're stationed. Now, while playing this game, it might seem like a lot of other mystery games, there are plenty, but it manages to stick the landing, and without venturing into spoiler territory, if you finish this game, it'll take quite a few unexpected turns. It's extremely satisfying, not just because of the cleverly written story, the performances that it bolsters, but it's just like this perfectly crafted pot boiler. And for something that on the surface looks like a walking simulator, it sure is fun in all the right places. But again, it gives you that resolution, that conclusion that we often don't see in stories like this. Hints of things might go in a direction, and they don't. They commit to the story, and it makes it very satisfying. Now at number 7, we've got Hi-Fi Rush. If you want a modern game that gets game endings, this is a good pick. So for the vast majority of this game, the story is like lighthearted, breezy, kind of disparate, whatever. It's mostly an excuse to get your player character, Chai, to whack some evil business bosses upside the head with a guitar. It's still interesting. I mean, the game goes out of its way to make the character likable, but it's mostly the back and forth banter stuff that's fun, and the story doesn't get much deeper than that. At least it's not deeper than that until the very end. Like the very end. There's like this game-ending plot twist that is a flurry of surprise after surprise. I don't even want to spoil it here because it's really good. Like, it is that satisfying. And just when you think it's over, there's another thing, and how they manage to make you actually care about a character that's been a goofball for most of the game is really impressive. It's an ending that's rare. It's like a big swing, mostly reserved for these very somber, serious types of games. But it's cool to see a game that is upbeat and chill, mostly nailing an ending this well. Now, over at number 6, it's got to be the original BioShock. One of the most impressive things about this game is how ahead of its time it was, because for most big franchises, they tend to taper off, run out of ideas, or just have slightly diminishing returns. But BioShock was one of those rare ones that immediately came out of the gate swinging. And I'm not just talking about the story here. I mean, the story, of course, is amazing. It's like this kind of alternative universe, 40s and 50s inspired novel with its retro art and architecture and the way that they incorporate it into the story with the voice acting and little audio logs. And the entire narrative structure of BioShock just deserves mention on its own. It just has these twists you never see coming, but you get like a weird, creeping feeling that something's off from the start. Going to a new chapter leaves you more uncertain rather than clarifying things. And finally, when the other shoe drops, it blows your mind in a way no other games have really managed to pull off convincingly. The "would you kindly" moment is pretty legendary in gaming history, but it almost is like a spoiler for the ending. Like everyone who's touched a bottle these past decades of games probably heard some kind of whisper about this plot point, but it's different when you actually sit down and experience the whole thing yourselves. It's a game worth seeing through because those moments are cooler than somebody just telling you about them. For real. Yes, BioShock is an infamous series where the real important part of the story actually comes after the important part. Like, they nailed the landing so hard, it's like, well, now what? What do we do? Now, down at number 5, and I know I've said it before, but I gotta keep it going with this one, it's Hades. Look, the average person, when they hear the concept of a roguelike, probably feels like they're just endless and repetitive, and they sound like they just keep going forever. But really, there is just spectacle in trying to get as far as you can. But if there's any game that bucks the trend, well, it would be this one, Hades. It's the kind of game that's ideally built so you mop up every possible quest, every NPC dialogue, and fully unlock and upgrade all your weapons. It's a roguelike that rewards and entices repeated endgame play in creative ways, as well as its own bespoke story content for ending the game. See, you don't even get the true ending the first time you finish it. You actually have to beat Hades multiple times to get the real, actual conclusion, which might sound annoying, but the way the game is structured is that you'll likely keep playing after winning anyways just to see everything. After all those attempts struggling to get through the relatively simple bosses at the start, once you nail, get the power-ups right, and make it to the end, it's really satisfying. And the game gives you plenty of bells and whistles to encourage you to keep going. The truth with this game is whether you win or lose, ending a run in Hades is not the end. The story keeps going. They always find a way to just keep you going in that healthy way. Not like dangling a carrot in front of you, but good, creative, interesting ways.
Things have changed. We better go.
What about the other prisoners? You can't just leave them here.
Now at number 4, the original Gears of War. This might be a dated opinion by now, but we'd say the original Gears of War delivers a far more impressive and satisfying experience than its sequels. Whether you agree or disagree here, stick with me here because at least this story has a clear arc in the sense of setting the world and presenting the player with these terrible monsters called the Locust, and how they just appear out of seemingly nowhere and just wreak havoc. The most tense parts of the game are when they are using these underground burrowing creatures to strike unsuspecting soldiers. And they did a really good job at making these things genuinely terrifying. I mean, it's not Resident Evil 4 Scary or The Thing, but these guys are intimidating, ugly, and lethal. Now, throughout the course of the game, it slowly becomes clear that the Locusts didn't come from nowhere. They were dwelling right beneath everyone's feet. And with every level, it's feeling like things are getting a little bit grosser, the world more twisted, things are going more and more wrong. By the end, when you're knee-deep in Locust Chaos in this blackest night of darkness, it's like pitch black. It's amazing. It's that rare game where getting to the ending feels like a real event. Like the stakes keep getting higher, there's this sense of mystery, you keep stepping into the darkness. It's one of the best parts of the entire series. There's some real creative stuff there. Anyway, at number 3, we have Nier Automata. If you play through this game only once, you are potentially seriously missing out. One of the more annoying things us nerds try to say when it comes to Nier Automata is to say, you haven't seen the real game yet, but really, it has a good reason. Just playing through the story once leaves out a serious amount of information. The game doesn't really start to truly reveal itself until the 3rd playthrough. Now, for some people, that sounds like a tall order, which is why it sometimes turns people off, but we say it's worth it. It's easier than it sounds. These kinds of narrative things trick you into thinking you're going to have to restart the game over and over. But up to the point, the fact is, the playthroughs are actually all pretty different, and they change the context in fascinating ways as it goes on. There's a lot more I'm not going to reveal here because the ways it keeps rebooting itself and keeps the player in the dark about what's coming next, it is really thrilling. It's existential, it's philosophical, it is smart plot writing, and at the end, all 3 playable characters are there along with the multi-layered plot line as everything comes to a head in really powerful and surprising ways. This is a game that the base narrative, the nuts and bolts of what's going on is already amazing, but it's how the game itself tells its story. It's one of the most innovative narratives in these mainstream types of games, and you really gotta play through it to get the full experience. I know I just say trust me, dude, but seriously, trust me, dude. Now, moving to number 2, we have another Crab's Treasure. There have been jokes about the Souls-like genre being creatively bankrupt for a while now. I mean, I kind of think it's warranted considering how many of these things come out. It's like a parody of the same game over and over again. So it's pretty wild that it took this long for someone to make a game where you play as a crab. Like, it took long enough to get this, and it's a good thing we did because Another Crab's Treasure is one of the most interesting games to come out of this wave of Souls-like inspired titles. And what's really nice, like structurally, it isn't just a watered-down version of a From Software game that you can just mop up in like 5 hours. Nor is it some endless grief fest made to make some YouTuber throw a fit, right? It occupies the middle ground where the setting is creative, the story is engaging, the gameplay and mechanical design are top-notch, and it all really comes together at the end. Like, we are serious. If you like crabs and you're up for a bit of being challenged without torturing yourselves in a game, Another Crab's Treasure is a must, and it's really a thing you need to finish in a few sittings maximum. Like, it's an ending, we refuse to spoil it here. It's pretty wild and really explodes what we already thought was possible from a stupid game about a crab, but yeah.
Stop!
Now, down at number 1, we have Sifu. This is another rare thing, a challenging as all hell game, like one that takes the 90s brawler formula and really reinvents it in a unique way for modern systems, and it's got a really engaging story and satisfying ending. A game like some of these other games, I know it's daunting. It definitely breaks some people's spirits, but if you actually stick with it, the ending is really worth it. I mean, for one thing, just the raw catharsis of beating literally everyone in this game is enough to put it on the list. But the cool thing is, they added a further layer in the final version of the game where you can actually show mercy to the 5 initial bosses that you fight, and it just adds a whole new layer to the story. What used to be pretty simple and straightforward in its themes, like classic revenge movie tropes, suddenly becomes a lot more ambiguous and interesting. Like, what's more important, your goal for vengeance or the moral stance of being the bigger person and showing mercy by beating the game both ways? You get a more thorough, developed story, and it makes the ending even better. Like I said, the normal way is still awesome, but showing mercy is really cool.